Coming to you from a subspace channel deep inside your computer. It's the Daily Planet!
Welcome to the Daily Planet. I'm Lucian. Let's get started. First up, the big story of the day. Well, perhaps it wasn't such a good idea to tie the launching of the Daily Planet to NASA's return to flight. Just a little while ago, which is only a little over a day after the successful launch of Space Shuttle Discovery, NASA has grounded the remainder of the fleet indefinitely. A 3-foot strip of insulation fell off the external fuel tank shortly before separating from the shuttle. Video footage shows the foam separating, but it also shows clearly that it did not hit the shuttle. So they'll get to finish their mission and come home, but it is unclear when they will ever get to launch again. All I've got to say is I wouldn't want to be one of those guys on the shuttle right about now. It looks like your ride is going to be out of commission for a while. And in business news, after years of small labels being given less money than big labels for their products, both Apple Computer and Microsoft were at last agreeing to provide indies with a greater cut of the profits from online music sales. With a direct effect on small labels' often fragile bottom lines, the pay hikes from Microsoft and Apple's iTunes will be immediately welcomed. For years, independent labels have complained about being treated as second-class citizens by the big digital music services. Sources close to Apple said it was planning to raise indie labels' reimbursement for individual sales to 70 cents per song, up from 65 cents. Some of that money goes to pay publishers as well as record labels and the artists themselves, of course. Microsoft has also agreed to bring small labels as close to parity with the majors as possible for both its existing download service and the subscription service it plans to launch later this year. According to the American Association of Independent Music, independent labels account for 27.5% of music sales in the United States and up to 1/3 of online listening on internet radio and other venues. And you know what the best part is? They haven't counted on what podcasting is going to do for independent labels and artists. Like I always say, this is a great time to be alive. Anyway, and in the bizarre but apparently true news, we have this gem. Scientists have found high levels of arsenic in a lock of hair from King George III, which they say could explain the 18th century British monarch's famous bouts of madness. One of the longest reigning British sovereigns, George ruled the empire from 1760 to 1820. During his time, Great Britain expanded its empire and defeated Napoleonic France. But George is perhaps best remembered for losing the American colonies, us, and his well-documented episodes of insanity. Many explanations have been put forth for the episodes, including the possibility that George suffered from a hereditary blood disorder called porphyria. The new research analyzed a sample of hair collected upon the king's death that has been on display at the London Science Museum. The researchers found surprisingly high levels of arsenic, 17 parts per million, suggesting he had ingested it. They speculated that the king could have repeatedly imbibed arsenic through tonics popular at the time that contained the substance. Arsenic could have triggered his attacks, especially if he had inherited the defect for porphyria, the researchers said. The presence of arsenic in a sample of the king's hair provides a plausible explanation for the length and severity of his attacks of illness, the researchers wrote. We propose that exposure to arsenic would exacerbate attacks of porphyria in a genetically predisposed individual. You liked the accent, didn't you? Now, wait a minute. Let me see. A leader who's acting insane and who's making bad political moves. By George, I think someone should have President Bush checked out for this arsenic poisoning thing. Who knows? Maybe it's something in the pipes at the White House. Anyway, I think it's worth checking out. That's all I'm saying. And that is just something to think about. I'm Lucian, and this is the Daily Planet. See you tomorrow.